welcome to episode 1 of BassPro. In today's episode, we're going to be going over sound design involved in dubstep drop synths. The next episode and the one after that will cover bass-heavy mixing and mastering. We want to get this song to sound as professional as possible. So let's get started. Obviously, there's tons of software you could use to make any of the growls you'd hear in the average dubstep drop. Massive would be one of those pieces of software, and another would be the new VST from X4 Records, Serum. That's the one I'm going to be using first because it offers a little bit more flexibility with sound design. So let me get my musical typing up because my MIDI controller is not currently plugged in. Let's start to design our sound. So right now, this is the sound that we have. Now that's not exactly what we're looking for a dubstep drop. What are we looking for is a little bit dirtier, grittier, very vocal sounding. So let's go ahead and click this pencil here. That'll open up edit mode within Serum. Now if we set the grid to 0 by 0, that will allow us to draw in our own wavetable. So let's just record a couple notes real quick, and then we'll listen to the MIDI information on loop while we edit the wavetable. That'll do. I'm going to start by creating a lot of information here in the very first section of our wave. This will give us a good dominant sub area and low mid area. The second section should either be low or high. To get good vocal harmonics, you want to have kind of a lower section right here, and then some more excited sort of peaks in this section. Usually keep it to one side like this, and the further you get to the side, the closer the spikes get together. Now if we drop an octave, maybe 2, we start to get that gritty sound that we're looking for. So I'm just going to double click on our MIDI information, and I'm just going to bring it down 2 octaves. Now what we're going to do is draw another wavetable or add another wavetable. And what we're going to do is just edit this one. So I'm going to bring, our grid snapped back for some reason. Let's see what that sounds like. So let's just add back in what we had going on, something like that. And the second part, something. So I'm just swapping in between the two sounds that we have. Let's bring some of the same information forward like this. And let's do the same thing here. So we're just moving kind of like the same thing forward. And that's a good way to create a lot of vocal sounding changes in the drop synth. So we're going to start with that. And now let's just mimic, and then we'll do kind of like a half thing. See what that sounds like. And now what we're going to do is we're going to keep the same kind of vibe, but switch directions on here. And now we're going to drastically move up what we've done, as well as switch the spikes to the bottom for vastly different harmonic sounds. Now let's get one more in there. This one I'm going to start sort of like this to get lots of low mid information. And now I'm just going to have several sharp spikes in this area, as well as a few down here. And I'm going to smooth out this area like this. Now, if we hold down Shift and select all of our wavetables that we've made so far, we can crossfade between them. And this is how you get something sort of massive-esque, something that sounds like it would come with massive. So let's just move the wavetable knob position around while we play through the MIDI that we've laid down. So now what we can do to make this interesting is we can use either a macro knob, an LFO, or an envelope to modulate the sound. Let's start with a macro knob and apply it to the wavetable position. So now when we turn this knob, it's like turning the wavetable position. We can also apply it to other things. Like for instance, a distortion technique like bend minus plus. We can apply it in either direction. Sounding pretty good so far. Now, one of the techniques I really like to utilize while making dubstep basses is pitch rises and falls. So I'm going to go ahead and edit that here on the mod controller. And now we're going to go into the effects and do my favorite part of this, which is distortion modulation. Sounds absolutely fantastic. Let's go ahead and set that to pre and put our macro controller on the F axis of the graph. Let's just turn down the mix a little bit and see how that sounds. Now we can also edit our graph by moving around this point here, which for some reason we can't see. That is a glitch. You want it about halfway up and either here or here. So let's just set it towards the right side of the graph for now. Sounds pretty good to me. Let's turn down the mix a little bit. Sounds good to me. Now let's go into the phaser and take down the depth a little bit, maybe the feedback. And let's add macro 1 to the frequency and just turn it down to these low vowely sounds right here. Sounds pretty darn cool. So I'm just going to turn the mix down on that a little bit too. Sounds pretty damn good. So all I'm going to do now is add an EQ and boost the high end a little bit. And I'm going to zoom in on our MIDI, and I'm going to open up our modulation section, and I'm going to grab our first macro, which is what I applied all of our changes to. There it is, macro 1. And let's just go in there and mess it up a little bit. Let's start at the top for this one and work our way down a little bit, kind of like that. And then let's just round it off. Something like that, sort of. As you can see, we are clipping a little bit, so we're going to first of all edit the EQ. So we're going to use a FabFilter plugin called Pro Q2 to do this. Now let's just visualize what's going on here for a minute. Now one thing about drawing your own wavetables that you'll find is you get a lot of unnecessary information back here where you can't even hear any of it. So we'll do a low cut, and I'll do it 96 decibels per octave, and we'll listen to that while it plays, and we'll see what of it we can hear, starting up here where we can hear the information. So take a listen to this. So as you can see, this is the point, 29 hertz, where all of this information is completely useless. And look at how much of it there is. Now, if we turn that off, we can see a pre and post and see how much we're taking away. Now that is pretty awesome, but we're not even going to cut there. We're going to cut even further up. And the reason for that is because our sub bass occupies the space up to almost around 100 hertz. So our sub bass should be stopping around 60 hertz, and then the space between 60 and 120 hertz will be taken up by the snap of our kick drum and the snap of our snare, for dubstep anyways. Works for most genres, but especially dubstep. So let's solo this and listen and move it forward to a point where we're not losing any essential information. We're not losing any of the fundamentals. So the way I choose my point to do the high pass is basically I listen for when I can start to hear the macro changes taking place. So it's right around this point. So here I know that if I play it, I'm not losing any of the movement, and that's exactly where I want to cut it. Now also what I'm going to do to get a little more shine out of this sound is I'm just going to boost these high frequencies up here. Now I know a lot of people say not to boost, but in this stage of the sound design, it is a valuable tool to use. So now we're clipping even more. So what are we going to do? We're going to first distort and then compress. So I always like to have trash 2 in my effects chain. The reason for that is primarily because of the width control with the convolve setting. So this one we're going to set a little bit wider, and then we're going to distort it with maybe a little bit of a nasty boy with the mix turned down. So there we have it, and the distortion also limits it. Now we're going to limit it a little bit more with a bit crusher, which is my secret tool. It does an amazing job set to full resolution, drive all the way down, at just bringing down the sound level of basses. It's okay if it's distorted a little bit because it is a bass, just remember that. You only want it to limit to the point where you can't hear a difference in the sound. As soon as you start to hear a difference in the sound, you want to stop limiting it. So you got to listen for that. Now, realistically, for producing properly, we should turn up the sound of the computer and turn down the sound of our synth. But since this is a tutorial, I'm going to work a little bit louder, because if I have this turned up loud, I can't hear over my own voice, because everything I'm saying is relaying back into my headphones because of the effects chain I have controlling my voice and its input levels. So that's the baseline that we have at the moment. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my mod wheel over here to change some of the pitch information. But I can't affect notes I've already drawn in. It's just something within Logic, just the way it works. So I'm going to just record in this section because I don't want to change what I've already done. But it's gotta be... Okay, so I'm just gonna record me hitting a note and then playing with the pitch a little bit. So now that that's there, we can just hit the settings button here to bring up our pitch bend. And if we copy that note and bring it in here, then it should bring that information down here too. So now we can open up our pitch bend settings and just delete that note and delete this section too here. So now we have our pitch bend open. We can take a note like this and start to make it sound a little bit more interesting. So our pitch bend information, Oh, look, our pitch bend turned off. It's not on anymore. Okay, let's try and record some new pitch bend information, see if it works. There it is. Cool. It actually worked that time. So we're going to start with it at 0. And what we're going to do is we're going to have it come up in, what is it, 1/8, I think? And just like that, just come up in pitch. Oh, we want this one to be set to 0 for sure. And we're going to want the pitch to start decaying around here and then kind of finish off right before the end, kind of like right there. So how cool is that? Now, I'm not sure why we have 2 different audio sections. It looks like it's creating a new track just for the automation, but that's actually okay. So what I'm going to do is actually going to stretch this out over the entire thing. And now no sound is playing, so I took that back. I didn't actually move anything, so let's just make sure we're not changing stuff. Logic gets confusing sometimes. It just starts telling you stuff that it's not actually happening. Anyways. So now that we have that, we can create a duplicate channel of Serum and duplicate all of the information we have above and just bring it right down and copy the automation data. And now let's just listen to that on its own. Now see, it didn't save the last part of this because we didn't keep these last notes here. And now we have them. I'm wondering if moving this here is going to cut out our notes. Actually, you know what? It doesn't matter, because what we're going to do is we're just going to copy these and delete them right out of there. And then we're going to paste them into here. And now we have our automation stored within the proper clip. Now, if we even wanted to carry over the automation, we could simply use Logic's glue tool and glue these two together. And now we could do pitch modulation on the beginning sounds here too. So why don't we try and add in a little bit more pitch modulation somewhere else, somewhere up here, like with these 2 notes. Something kind of like that. So now what I was saying was if we duplicate it, now the good thing about modulating the pitch with the mod wheel is that now we can go in here and turn on sub, direct out, and turn off oscillator A and all the effects. We don't have to turn off the effects, but whatever. Now our sub is affected by that information. Let's go into the MIDI editor and bring these all down. So you want to slope kind of like this in your output, for the synths anyway. So now that that's done, let's go to our synth up here, and let's do a send to bus 2, and let's call this bus low bass verb. So this is going to be the reverb send for all of our lower bass sounds. So first things first, it's going to need, reverb, and then we'll cut it with an EQ afterwards. So let's give this a listen. Put these settings full at first, and then just take down the send until it sounds better. we can actually solo this bus just to hear the reverb. Well, it's not just the reverb, that's what we're sending. I actually want to keep the mix full so we just have reverb playing. You know what? I had the channel soloed, so that wasn't working. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this EQ here to just cut out unnecessary frequencies. Let's turn up the decay a little bit. Let's unsolo our channels here and give that a listen. Oh. So we're sending too much, and it probably is too high of a decay, to be honest. Another quality that we want is nice wide reverb. So I'm going to use the X Verse Dimension Expander to help that a little bit. And you know what? Maybe a chorus too. Now let's see how that sounds with everything. So we'll send that one at a fairly low value. So there's our bass reverb send, and that's just, you know, practicing around with synth. So let's just mute both those channels and work on a new part of the sound now. We'll make this one in massive because why not? So there's our default sound, and now let's start working with that. Just quantize it real quick. Not sure why the piano roll popped out, but I'll roll with it. Now, because we can't create our own wavetables with massive, we're just gonna have to pick a few that we like. And a few that I like are AI Scrapyard. Carbon's really good, but we're just gonna use one oscillator similarly to what we did in Serum. Unbend minus plus, drop it down an octave. And we're gonna use macro 1 again and just control this right here. And let's draw in that information right now so that when we're editing the other sounds, it is automatically affected by what we're doing. And this time I'm just gonna have it going up slowly across all the sounds like this. Now let's go in and put the macro controller on a couple of different parts of the sound. So I don't want it to go quite that far, and something like this would probably be good. Sounds pretty good to me. Let's make sure our envelope is all the way up so the sound's not losing any of its power when it plays. Let's put a little white noise in the background, bright noise to be exact. Just a little bit. Let's give it a little bit of feedback, and let's feed oscillator 1 and the bright and the bright noise into filter 1. And I'm just pushing it to serial and the mix down to filter 2 because we're going to be putting sound into both of the filters. So the first one we're going to give a band reject, and we're going to put the macro like this and turn both these up a little bit and see what that sounds like. Let's try moving the bandwidth in the opposite direction. And resonance down a little bit. Now for the second one, let's add a double notch. And the settings just kind of like this. We'll try in both directions with the macro knob. And let's try modulating the fade between the two filters. Maybe about halfway. And maybe in the opposite direction to even out the volume changes. I like that quite a bit. So now what we're going to do is add some shapers to the sound. Parabolic and then sine. And now we're going to add a classic tube. Just right about there. And probably a dimension expander. Size all the way down, dry wet up a little bit. In the EQ, we can boost the high and cut the frequency all the way down, and then lower the low shelf a tiny bit. So now we're going to EQ it just like we did our last sound with FabFilter's Pro Q2. So we're going to cut it at a 96 decibel per octave slope, which just means at a sharp slope, right around 100 hertz. So right around here, we'll listen for that fundamental sound variance again. We're going to cut it right there. Those highs don't need to be boosted, and if anything, they need to be lowered. We can boost this information here. It's going to be the most vocal sounding information in between this range right here. So let's give that a listen. I'm going to give it a little boost right there, and then another one right here. Let's go ahead and turn this into a bell. I'm going to cut up here and boost up here with another bell. So we've just made the sound a little bit more vowel-y. I'm going to add trash 2 onto it again for the convolve setting, but this one I want to be a little bit narrower in comparison to the other sounds. So let's just... Sounds good. And now trash, let's do the same nasty way. So now all that's left to do is a little bit of distortion, like so. The bit crusher to limit it. And finally, ascend to a reverb bus, just a little bit like last time. And we're going to duplicate massive, and of course, duplicate our MIDI. Copy the macro knob. Not that we need to for this instance, but that's okay. And we're going to take off all of our things here, and we're going to turn off oscillator 1 and just put on oscillator 2 as a sine square. We're going to turn off our filters. We're going to turn off our sends. We're going to turn off our feedback and our distortion, dimension expander, and EQ. So now we just have a pure sine wave. So if we just move our sound over, we can play these two one next to the other and hear what they sound like and mix them together so that they sound like they belong in the same song. So this one we're going to limit a little harder Maybe even actually give it a little more distortion. Sounds pretty good to me. So now let's work on putting some melodic elements into the song. We're going to do this with Serum because, again, it's a little bit easier to work with. Important thing is the arrangement, which we're going to get started on right now. So let's go in here and let's cut out these first two notes and get these ones to one full. What I want is 4 of these playing. So dot, 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 dot. And we got to get rid of the information ahead of time because it's not going to be playing. So we can just drag this down. And now we have... And I'm going to get rid of all the stuff after it too, for now anyways. So just that. I'm going to get rid of this stuff here too. Now let's move our chords over and see how they sound like right there. Just like that. They're not on time, are they? There we go. These chords sound absolutely horrible. So let me go over making proper ADM chord sounds. So let's just take off all these dreadful effects. Take off, take off, take off, off. Okay. So let's just have the sound playing. And let's go into Serum and load up an init patch. Great. There's our first step to our awesome chord is a clean saw. Now the next one is going to be an octave down. And this one's going to have some detune to it. So together they sound like this. And now what we're going to do is duplicate that one again, bring it down, and just get these bottom two. And we're going to bring down the detune, throw in some noise, and then distort it quite a bit. Maybe even bring it down one more octave. Yeah, that sounds about right. And we're going to EQ it so that's more high end. Sort of like that. Now, one other good sound to have is what it is a sine, a saw, and I think it's this one. Ray Blaster? Yeah, Ray Blaster. I think. Yeah. It's like a sine and a saw fed into a distortion shaper, and it sounds like this. And what I'm going to do is take those two notes and just layer them on top because it sounds really epic all the time. So let's go into this sound here. This one right before the end. I'm just going to turn it into two sounds. And now this last part, we can have something different. We have growls, we have long sustained chords filling up the space. Now we want some sort of pluck. So I'm going to use massive to make the pluck. We're just going to use a square to start with. And we're going to bring it down 1 octave. And we're going to grab envelope 1 and put it on the pitch going up 64 like this. Kind of like that. So we'll do a dimension expander. And we'll just use massive as a reverb, even though we have ours set up there. I think we want something kind of like this. So those chords are getting a little loud, so what I'd like to do is group them all together, with the exception of the sub bass. So we'll just create a track set and mute the other stuff. Again, just Bit Crusher. It's literally magic. This one needs to be louder. This one needs to be turned down. Let's take a listen now. Definitely sounds a little bit more full. So what I like to do is I like to give it a really wet kind of sound like Virtual Riot. I'll take a plugin called, where is it? It's by Sonic Academy, Nicky Romero kick plugin. And all I'm going to do is turn down the sub volume all the way, and then when I play, you'll hear this click sound. I just wanted to pick one that I like that, maybe. And I'm just going to play it every time a note hits. So now here's the click sounds. They're going to be a little bit too loud, but when we turn them down, you'll hear how good they sound. So they just give it a little bit more pop. We're going to just cut some low end out of it. And we're going to boost around 5K. And I'm going to use a Bit Crusher again, like always, to take down the actual decibel level. So let's play the sound and limit it until we have even dynamics. So what I'm seeing is they're not all even, but that's okay because they're pretty close. Close enough. So what we're doing right now is gluing our sounds together. And the other thing I want to do a little bit is work on the stereo width of each individual sound because it really makes it more fun to listen to. So I want this one to be like really wide. And then this one here to be pretty narrow, which it already is. And I'm just going to add, instead of modulating the panning, I'm just going to add a tremolo, however you say it. I like that. And that one's narrow, so then our chords have to be super wide, which they should be already, but we'll just expand them a little bit anyways. A little more than that. And then this one, because our final sound again is the same first one, meaning that it's very wide, we'll make this one very narrow, which we can't actually do with this plugin. We need Trash, Isotope Trash 2. Isotope makes some of my very favorite plugins. They're really awesome. So let's give that a listen. So I'm going to bounce that out. Okay, and I'm going to mute all those tracks, and I'm going to go grab tutorial drops from my bounces folder. Okay, so I'm going to drag that in now. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to save the project because this is the end of BassPro episode 1. So I'll see you guys next time, where we are going to mix this with drums, arpeggiator, pads. We're going to make it sound really full. It's going to sound really awesome. So make sure you stick around for episode 2, where we mix it, and episode 3, where we master it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks, guys. See you later.